Can you test, is that one on, Bob?
I didn't turn that one on.
It's mine's on.
Oh, that one there?
Oh, maybe I did I?
Yeah, it sounds like it's on.
Yep, all right, good, got the microphone's working. Sounds good, I'd like to go ahead and call to order the Utilities Committee of Council this evening to order.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, first on our agenda, I'm working this microphone thing, trying to get used to it, is talking about the JV Green Team in your 2015-2029 solid waste management plan. Council's had close to a month to review information sent to us from the JV Green Team as well as from our city manager. So before I make some comments, I'm going to open up with our city manager for any comments.
Thank you, Greg. Only comments that I would make at this point, I think we, as everyone on council is aware, this is part of the process that we are going through for the review of the plan 2015 through 2029. This plan has been, the version that UPAC Council was adopted by the board of the Solid Waste Authority in September. We are now in what's called the ratification process, and that has been going to and through a number of political subdivisions in both Jefferson and Belmont counties, and will continue to do that. This ratification process, I believe, extends into December of this year, roughly around December 20th, and the city, with the plan, needs, in my opinion, to review it, consider a resolution to either support it or not support it, and hopefully go on the record with that determination. So it would need to come out of committee this evening as part of our system with a recommendation from the committee to the full council. If that happens, then at our next meeting on the 4th, that resolution would be sunshined, and then I would ask the council to take action on that resolution at their November 10th meeting. Just a little bit of speculation on the plan in terms of the ratification. If that were not to be successfully ratified in the two counties, then the issue of EPA writing the plan for the authority begins to become more of a consideration. I've been in contact and discussed with our JV Green Team Executive Director, Mr. Meyer, about that possibility, and it's my understanding that the plan needs to be, final plan needs to be to EPA no later than April 30th of 2015. That would be a plan that would be complete, done. They would be able to certify it, I would guess, maybe the right term at that point. But that does, if this plan were not ratified, then we would have the opportunity, we and a number of other communities would have the opportunity to negotiate, if you will, additional changes, and to do that between now and March 30th, or March 31st, I should say. But that might be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. We need to go through the process that we have this evening But again, I would request council's consideration of the plan, at least the committee's consideration, and then a recommendation from the committee on how they would like council to proceed.
Okay, Tim, what I'd like to just take some time. I've had a chance to review the information, talk to the members of the committee, and at this time I'm ready to basically go ahead and next week sunshine a resolution that will not support the plan currently for a few reasons. And I'm going to state these reasons tonight, and then I'd like to have my committee members speak as well, and the rest of the council there after that. First of all, the mayor has brought up to our attention the loss of veto power, and that's very much weighed on my mind since he brought that up initially. I know there's been some movement to sort of help alleviate that, but that's always been at the forefront of my mind there. The second thing that's been a real sticker to me is I know they lost a lot of revenue, and without that lot of revenue, cut out a lot of services. With this plan, it still does not restore any lot of services, so there's really no new value to our citizens at this point in time. Notice that a lot of other communities have not supported the plan. Most recently, City Council in Toronto last evening voted 7-0 to not support the plan. So we're seeing a lot of other communities want to see something different come to the table. You mentioned about the ODPA, so I'm not going to repeat that. That was also something I thought that we would still have some time to work on that, and the quicker the better, according to what the mayor has mentioned to me. My understanding is, in discussions with you, Tim, that Mr. Meyer is retiring. You guys are going out to advertise for a new director. If a new director is hired, that new director might have some different ideas than what's in the current plan, which may then come back to communities and become more favorable, where the communities will go from not supporting it to supporting it. A lot of those difficulties weigh in my mind, and that's my position on this at this point in time is I will propose that the Utilities Committee have a resolution of non-support for the proposed 2015-2029 JB grade team plan at this time. Happy to open up the members of council, Mr. De Loretta, Ms. Kirkhoff, for any comments.
Joe, you want to go?
Good.
Okay.
You first.
I'm in agreement with Councilman Metcalf, but probably for a different reason, if I'm understanding it correctly, Tim, and from all the information that I read. It looks like this plan, if it's not ratified, and if we don't negotiate a new plan, and it does go to the EPA, that the fear is that they'll do some mandates that we can't afford, or we're very expensive, because they'll use the 2009, am I right here, they'll use the 2009 guidelines.
That I'm not.
Is that correct? They'll use the 2009 guidelines. Now, the thing about it is that means that, so then we're using the we're using 1995 guidelines right now. That's what concerns me more, is that that plan is not based off the 2009 guidelines. And if we're basing something off of the plan from 1995, or the 1995 guidelines, that's my concern in it, is why don't we need to look at maybe negotiating something that would have the 2009 guidelines in it, because in 1995 we didn't have the concerns that we have at this present time, unless I'm incorrect on the dates, and I could be. I don't have it in front of me. I'm going off of my memory of what I was told. So that would be my reason for wanting to negotiate a new plan.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I hate to see this program go, because in the first ward, I'd probably have more trash, more TVs, more tires than anybody else. But I just don't trust the EPA. I think they're a shadow. Been doing it for 20 years. I know you need money. We need money too. Water department's in the red. Sewer department's in the red. And our sanitation department is in the red. And I know if we pass this, I know who's gonna take all the bullets. And if this is ever passed, I wanna know who is in charge, whoever raised this. I want their home phone numbers and their office phone numbers, so somebody can contact the EPA. Because it seems like they're like a shadow. They always tell us what to do, but never give us any funds. But I cut a lot of tires, and I seen them got it all together, so I don't know what the answer is. But attacks in Steubenville at this time, with nobody working, and our population going down, I don't know what the answer is. Thank you.
Members of council, committee has spoken.
Okay, my only thing is that some of the programs that have been cut, I've been talking with Mr. Beard for a month or two now about trying to get just small things like electronic recycling, which I am in contact with somebody who's willing to work with us and get that done. Bob and I discussed one time about possibly doing a tire collection. So those programs that we're worried about losing, I don't think that they're lost and gone if we don't go with this program. I think that the city could probably implement a couple of programs ourselves. That's a positive.
Mr. Johnson?
I have no problem initially voting no to go back and tweak the program a little bit. However, ultimately, I would rather have the local officials make the decision on what our plan is going to be as opposed to Columbus. We never make out when Columbus makes the decisions for us. So we have local officials on this JV Green Team board, and I trust the local officials. But we can tweak it a little bit in the next month or so. And maybe that'll help the other communities that are voting no. Maybe they want to tweak it a little bit. But just everybody voting no, the plan is still going to get adopted. It'll just be the plan that Ohio, that Columbus wants us to do. So that's where I'm at.
Any other members of council?
Yeah. Want to go? Go ahead. I'll go last.
Mr. Farr, Mr. Bowman, Mr. Bowman.
Well, the only thing is, I probably wasn't privy to everything the committee discussed, so I'm not really sure about that part of it, but I paid attention to the emails that Tim sent and everything, and it was back and forth, and I really was a little bit confused about how this actually worked. I mean, not on your part, just in my own thought process, but after I did some research, and I also talked to some of the communities also, because I had a hard time trying to understand the whole thing, how it actually worked. But I do not trust the EPA, so I would like to have us in charge of the situation. The plan is going to be adopted one way or the other, and that's hands down. And I think that we should adopt it just for the simple fact that we will be a little bit more in control. Because the EPA comes in, there will not be. That's just my thought process.
Mr. Farr?
Okay. Anyhow, I went to the minutes of the JV Green Team. I went to the minutes of August, okay? And I saw where Jefferson County is funding a enforcement and code, an environmental enforcement officer, correct? At $60,000 a year. Okay, so right now, that's out of the taxpayers' money out of Jefferson County, correct? Right? We're paying for that. Then you want to put $12.50, let me go back. So then, it started out, it was $10.54. Then we wanted to put $2 more on to make it $12.54. So then by that time, then the county, the auditor, we want to give the auditor 38 more cents. So now we're up to $12.92 in the September minutes, correct? I can show you the minutes right here. You can go on JB Green Team, look at the minutes, and you can see how this keeps getting larger and larger and larger as we go along. So with that being said, Jefferson County is already paying $60,000 for a code enforcement officer, plus you want our citizens to pay $12.92. I, with Mr. Metcalf, am opposed to this. And that's where I'm at with this. Thank you.
Tim? Okay, yes, and the mayor will give you a chance to speak to. Got the direction of council at this time, and based off of your emails that I've read and all of council has read, and my discussions with the Mayor, the local officials like Mr. Johnson has brought up, has a chance now, November, December, January, February, March, to sit down, to come up with a plan to present that's going to be more favorable, where the communities are more happy with. So I'm not sure what needs to be done in order to enact this. Tim, maybe you may have some things, but I think we need to go to the drawing board like immediately to get a better plan in place for this community.
I did, Greg, have an opportunity to talk with Cliff, Mr. Meyer, earlier this afternoon, and we discussed, and I, I think if we look at the numbers, and I know a number of other communities are acting unfavorably towards the plan, and and I think Cliff and I were in agreement. I think we need to determine, where we are in that process, and if the plan ratification process looks like it's in trouble, then I would wholeheartedly recommend that we begin the negotiating process, name a negotiating committee, if you will. I expressed to Cliff probably a good idea would be to have populate that committee with primarily individuals, community leaders that have voiced opposition, because I think that's the only way we're going to work through the plan and try to address those concerns. And name that negotiating committee quickly and move forward with those kinds of real heart-to-heart discussions and try to iron this out. I think the good news is we have a little bit more time with EPA than I think we all at first blush thought we had. Still not a lot of time. I mean, this is something that we would need to start on quickly and get it wrapped up in the first quarter of 2015. I think that's probably our best hope of having local control, as Mike framed it, and not getting to the point where we would just have to say, EPA, you have to write our plan. So that would be, and I think Cliff, you and I in our discussion seemed to resonate, I think, between us. I don't know if you've had some additional thoughts on that, but I think that would be a very important step, and I certainly would be willing to help in any way possible to try to move those discussions forward.
Thank you. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Metcalf. I really don't want to go back in history because I think the members of council and everybody else realizes that the first indication I got in the opposing of the plan was for the designation fee. And I think everybody needs to separate the real estate tax that was imposed from the designation fee. The reason I took a stand when I was a part of the board as acting city manager was because of the significant impact it would have in our enterprise fund, the sanitation fund for the city of Steubenville, at the designation fee being $2 a ton. Not really a household, although it averages out. It would have a larger impact because we are the largest generator in Jefferson County of our tipping fees, the $2 impact it would have. Ultimately, that would have meant that city council would have to revisit the enterprise fund and possibly pass that cost on to the users, which is our residents. I'm so sorry. I tell everybody else to
Violating your own rules.
please throw me out. But anyhow, the reason I was originally opposed to the plan was because of the designation fee. And I think through education and outreach that the JV Green team has done, they've been explaining the difference between the real estate tax, the designation fee, and the other components within there. With that being said, understanding the plan, reviewing the plan, talking to the city manager and others involved, there were other themes within the plan that drew my attention. a $2 contingency or set aside dollars for what they consider a clean MRF, I believe it is. And if you know the histories and understanding of MRFs, usually they're not successful or generate money for a community. It's more of an environmental issue. We should be concerned about the environment for future generations, no doubts about it. But are we in an economic condition to support that type of funding? I believe, Mr. Paul, when you brought up from the 10 to the 12 and all, that's where that $2 came in. And the auditor here recently has some administration costs, which brought up closer to the $13 area. And by the way, that was implemented by the JV, the Solid Waste Authority, I believe 4 months ago or something, but in that general area. Regardless what of the plan, that will still exist. However, I will say if there's not a plan, it's not supporting it. So it's a balancing act there. I do want to point out, Mr. Metcalf, that regardless of the fate of the existing director, if he stays employed, he retires, or whatever the case may be, the hopes of a new director coming in and understanding and making recommendations for the plan is really slim, to be honest with you. Just the search process alone for a new director of the Solid Waste Authority, between the advertising, you know where it's up to find the city manager and all. And we do have a small window of opportunity. It was stated publicly and in the papers and all that if this plan is not adopted, that the EPA will come in and write a plan. Without a doubt, that's true. However, we do have a window of opportunity for people that are opposed to the plan that the Solid Waste Authority can negotiate with them to see and understand their concerns and possibly place them in the plan. Again, whenever you do those movements, there's dollars always attached to it. If you want more programming, that's more dollars to expend. So you got to understand the plan, where you can cut and where you can implement some of the concerns we have. I always said that if we were going to pay more money, we actually need to see value. And since then, the JV Green team has explained to us of the current programs and their statuses, and that's the value. Well, there's no additional value that we're offering our customers or our users for this $2 per ton, the designation fee, or for the real estate. So I think us revisiting the plan and inserting our concerns in it. I will give credit to Cliff that when he did a cost analysis of our sanitation, the limited information that we all provided through the process, he indicated to us that with a transfer station, a compactor, however we want to classify it, that there could be possible savings to our sanitation fund. So if we could implement that some way or somehow within the plan. Now, I know there are some very vague discussions, and I don't believe that the board is supporting such a concept. But let me tell you, as you all know, and I kind of say this maybe a little too often, that I've been around quite a few years. Kimball, down in Belmont County, there's a transfer station, and I could go through the history and all, but Belmont County at one time received a benefit, and the reasoning stating that they had this transfer station there was for the convenience of the community and the cost-saving measures. Well, quite frankly, I think Jefferson County, Steubenville, is still deserving of some of those considerations also. Not that we're better or different, but let's have some of those considerations here in our community and the plan. Because if we look at it, quite frankly, the largest contributor to the Solid Waste Authority is Apex Landfill, and we know that. And Apex Landfill, for the majority part of it, especially where they're dumping the garbage, is located in Jefferson County. The vehicles are traveling our roads. the residents in that area are putting up with conditions that they really shouldn't be putting up with. So maybe we do deserve a little bit more consideration for that. But as far as the city, I think we should be focusing on the designation fee, the loss of the veto, although there are some indications that we might be able to, because we have to ratify the plan again if there's any changes. I do know that Mr. Massia, the law director for the authority, gave an opinion on that. I'm not an attorney, but I'm not really in agreement with that, but you go with your law division's interpretation of the law. The other thing that concerns me is there was a letter back when I was part of the board in December from the Ohio EPA dated December 16th. It's a non-binding advisory opinion of the Jefferson Belmont Regional Solid Waste Authority. And that particular opinion that was addressed to Bob Chapman, chairman at the time, isn't really speaking highly of the plan. And I think some of those concerns were already addressed in some modifications of the plan to date, but some of them were not. So there's quite a bit within the plan that I think we need to revisit or visit. If this council is not going to support the plan, I would encourage them to make the decision as quickly as possible. I don't quite understand, though. Apparently, an email was forwarded to all members of council of a draft, a spreadsheet of what the communities, the population, and who's voted for and against. If you guys received it, you're shaking your head, some of you. And it is my understanding that our count is...
Mayor, for the record, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Your Honor, I have no idea which one.
Me either.
We did get that email.
We did.
Yes.
That was forwarded from the JB Green team. It was the current status of the community.
Right, it shows which city voted yes, which voted no, the number of citizens in the cities.
Yeah.
Well, again, like I said, I did not get it, Mr. Davis did.
Anyhow, according to that Excel spreadsheet, it is my understanding a lot of the communities are voting against it, and we are listed on there. So I don't know if our population count will go in, because I believe it's 40% of what you need, or do we just have the veto power? Either way, it appears that there's enough communities in Jefferson County saying no to not adopt the plan. So I would say council act as quickly as possible so our voice can be determined and heard. So if we do go into negotiating, that we will have as much time before the April 31st, I believe, March 31st date.
Your Honor, our committee is prepared to sunshine a resolution on support next week with passage 2 weeks from yesterday.
I believe, did you provide a resolution to us, to the communities? So it would be a yes or no vote on the resolution that's been provided by the Solid Waste Authority. And if you're not supporting the plan, it would be a no vote. I don't know the language of the resolution. If you're supporting the plan, it's a yes vote. But the recommendation from the committee could be not to adopt the plan, a no vote on that particular resolution.
No, I'll work with the adult director on that in the meantime. Your Honor, just 2 comments. Transfer station idea is something that is bandied about council. I know, Kenny, we've talked about that for the last several years under previous leadership, and I know, Bob, that you've been privy to those discussions as well, too. About the transfer station.
Too.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing. That number 1, I appreciate your comments on that. Number 2, Your Honor, as far as whether Ms. Murray gets rehired, or you go a different route, that's up to the committee. I do have faith in taking a look at the plan, listening to the communities, and rehashing that plan to make it better in his abilities, and/or if he's not coming back and the board hires somebody new, my assumption is they would hire someone who's qualified to do the job, just like Cliff is. And at that point in time, I would hope the person would have seen what has been in the news media, read what has been planned, read what has been lost, and read what the existing or new plan is that we're not supporting at this time, and fix it. I
You
have
have
confidence
town
in that.
also on the solid waste authority board.
On that board,
have,
yes.
input too. There's been
Yeah.
a lot of good frank discussions at board meetings when I was attending, and from reports from our manager and all, they continue, so.
I think it could be done by March 31st in a much better manner. Tim?
Yeah, I'd just ask our M&R director, Bob Baird. I know Bob is a person we look to for issues of sanitation and running a department like that. Bob, do you have any comments on the plan or compactors or transfer stations that you wish to share with us at this point?
At this point, not a lot. As you've mentioned already, and others have, the idea of a transfer station has been discussed for many years. I think maybe the mayor and the law director are probably the only two people in the room that date back far enough. I mean, it's gone on for a long time. And there's I think there's a discussion to be had there. I've shared with the city manager, one of the concerns I had with the information that the city has been presented at this point from the waste authority. I don't feel there's enough information there to make any kind of realistic or reasonable decision regarding a transfer station. I know the idea was presented as, for lack of a better word, incentive or a mechanism to maybe make the fees that were being sought more palatable. But to my way of thinking, there's a lot to that conversation. There's a great many considerations that go into it. There's a lot of missing information in the calculations that were provided to us, and I don't think those costs are accurate. I don't think the payback term, given the missing data, I don't think the payback term is anything close to realistic. I think the cost could be significantly higher. And at some point, that issue starts to break away from the issue on the table. Because if the city of Steubenville presently had a transfer station, or at some point in the future ultimately does have a transfer station, while the idea was that waste would be more easily transported to the Apex landfill, that's certainly true, but it's also more easily transported anywhere else. So looking at it from what's in the best interest of the citizens and the residents of the city of Steubenville, it's just another factor that goes into that conversation. There's a lot to discuss there. There are a lot of legal issues to be looked at. There's a lot of permitting, there's licensing, there's financial responsibility requirements, there's site requirements. And if I'm not mistaken, I think if I understand it correctly, the language of the plan, the Waste Authority's current plan, that whole process has to meet the approval of the Waste Authority, if I'm not mistaken. All design, construction, siting, all has to be submitted to the Waste Authority and board orders and be approved. So at least the way the proposed plan reads now. So anyway, that was my only thought. Is while the discussion on a transfer station is a good and valuable discussion. I just don't think it's something that the city can just find itself doing in the very near future. And the financial considerations, I think, will be large. We have limitations within it. There's only so much weight you can put on a truck that's going to be driven on county and state roads. And we would have to really look at what that savings is. EPA's own recommendations for a transfer station break-even point is 35 miles. We're nowhere close to that. The EPA itself says that if you are under 35 miles round trip, it's not worth it. So that brings us back into the discussion of where the waste is going and what that means. We're doing what we're doing for some pretty sound reasons. We would have to really investigate what else we might do and why. So I think there's a lot to discuss on that, just on that.
Will we give you a chance to comment?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead if you want to go to the microphone, Mr. Jameson.
Yeah, everybody's made mention of the communities that have come out against the plan so far. We have been to 2 city council meetings to explain this. One was in Tillsville. And I think after the explanations, they understood a lot better. We have been to Steubenville 4 times to explain this. 30 seconds before walking in the door here tonight, I was talking to a city councilman from Toronto who called me, and I asked why they voted against the plan. And the explanation that was given to them was absolutely, totally incorrect. And he said they voted on the plan because they didn't agree with the $12 tax. And I said to him, do you have any clue that there is no bearing on ratifying the plan and the tax? And he said, no, we were told if we ratified the plan, we were agreeing to the tax. And I said, I'm not quite sure who told you. Did anybody from JD Green Team tell you that? And he said, no, one of our council people told us that. We've never presented there. We've never been asked a single question. I would love to, personally, as one member of that board, respond to questions and accurate information and tweak this plan that it favors everyone. But I feel like I'm a dog chasing my tail because we've put this information out and out and out. And, the timing of the $12 tax, which had to happen in a certain time, and the ratification of the plan is confusing the issue. But we will reach out. I did make plans tonight that we will be at Toronto City Council in 2 weeks to explain the plan, to answer questions, to give them the opportunity to understand that. It's the opportunity that we've done here 4 times. Councilman Suggs, I see your name. Anyway, the 2009 plan. What is the great thing? And you've heard about businesses or public entities or people being grandfathered in. And many times when you're grandfathered in, that's a great thing because rules seldom get less restrictive. They generally get more restrictive. The difference between the 1995 and the 2009, you could say, oh gee, we want to be with the 2009 because the 1995 is old. The problem with the 2009 plan is it makes mandatory many of the things that are right now an option. It's something that we can do or not do. But once you adopt the 2009 plan, the EPA makes a whole lot of things, more things mandatory, and possibly curbside recycling. So adopting, why we always thought it was a great thing not to adopt the 2009 plan was choices, options. You can do something or you don't. I never think having something mandatory imposed on you is a good thing. And I've always believed in local control. We've got you've got representation from Steubenville, we've got representatives from both counties, from generators, from cities, from townships, and I really hope we can get our heads together and wrap around how to ratify this plan and keep the control local and not let it go to EPA. We are trying to, and I will throw out to the council, we think that the JB Green Team might be reaching out with a location, bringing somebody from EPA in and letting them explain to the public entities firsthand what happens, what to expect. Tim, you talked to somebody in EPA, he's volunteered to come down here. I talked to my fellow Commissioner Maple, said he'd like to hear that. So I think it's a great opportunity. We'll try and get him down here. We'll work with you. We'll get an opportunity. I'd like to get the folks from Toronto, some of the trustees. I went to a trustees meeting last week, regional planning. They didn't understand. They thought not ratifying the plan meant that $12 tax wasn't going to happen. No one wants to vote for putting a tax in. That's not the case, so we have to get over that obstacle first. The other thing is we feel, JD Green Team, when we look at, and one of the things we deal with is the disposal fees that every community faces. For example, if you look at Toronto, they're about $34 or $34.50 per ton in Toronto at a compactor in Toronto. That's what their total cost is. Wintersville's $36.50 total cost. They're out collecting in Wintersville, they come to their transfer, it's a compactor, they dump, they're right back out on the street 15 minutes later, $36.50. Steubenville cost is $38.50 here. And you have to add to that $38.50, transporting it to Brooke County, which is at least $8 to $10 a ton. So your cost is well over $45 a ton, which is $10 more than Toronto. Based on your 20,000 tons, there's a $200,000 a year savings for the city of Steubenville, or 10,000 tons, I'm sorry, there's $100,000 a year savings. But there's a huge savings there. There are lots of ways we can work with you. I've been working with a local businessman right on the Steubenville border who is agreeable to possibly putting a compactor in that Steubenville would utilize and work with a contract to haul and David. So there's lots of options out there. I think there's options on the table that can save the city of Steubenville money on their sanitation department, and if we get the dirty word, the designation fee in, we think, the JB Green Team thinks that $12 tax goes down to about a $6 tax, so it cuts it in half. So it's 50 cents a month instead of $1 a month. So there's a lot of things we can work on. I want to work forward based on the facts. I don't want to be a dog chasing my tail, because while you're trying to put out those fires, the facts are escaping us. And I think there's opportunities for us all to try and work together here and get something that benefits the citizens of Steubenville and of the county and of Belmont County. So I appreciate that, Angela. I hope that answered your question. And then to your thing, our consultant put together the plan with the cooperation of the full board, and I understand your points, but I doubt anybody sitting in a different seat with Cliff would change anything on that plan. Dominic was involved in some of the process. Tim's been involved in some of the process. We have excellent consultants that do this day in and day out, year in and year out. That we vetted them very well. They did a lot of work for us before. And the EPA loves our plan, the way it's written. They think it's an excellent plan. But hope to have the opportunity to work with everyone to go forward.
And Tom, addressing a couple things. I think two things. One, I think your idea, I'm not sure if Tim and the mayor, it might save you some time and energy, your board and staff, by having a meeting with the EPA and maybe doing Eastern Gateway. That way there's just much larger room and you don't have to continue to do things over and over again, and questions could be asked and maybe a better understanding going forward. And one thing that really just, and I know it means raising money, you brought it up there, you understand it, you guys understand it, is the fact that your services were here, then unfortunately what happened caused you to have to decrease your services to the citizens. I get that. And what we put in this, or what this plan does, is just keep you at the existing lower services that follow me. I would like to see our citizens, I know it may be more money, but I get that. But I'd just like to see our citizens get some bang for their buck.
Councilman,
if
that's
I
one
could
of the
say
things we
that.
need to discuss and resolve.
Yeah.
But
And
I really
that's
want
one of my biggest hangups.
I'd like to walk down that road, you know, working together, not working against each other, and I hope we can do that.
We understand, you know, my points there, so, any other members of council?
Yeah, I want you to answer my question there, Mr. Gentile. $60,000 is city, or the Jefferson County, correct?
Yes.
Does Belmont County, are they putting any money into a enforcement officer, environmental enforcement officer?
Same. Yes.
They are?
Send them out.
Okay. All right, so still,
You say, Tommy, same amount?
they're
Councilman,
putting the same amount in.
I'm not your enemy here, I'm trying to.
I'm not saying you're my enemy, I'm asking you a
Well,
question.
it
Because,
kind of appears that way. The county picked up the 60,000 so the JV Green Team wouldn't have to pay it anymore, and it wasn't something we wanted to take out of our budget.
The Green Team was never paying it. That
No,
position
no,
was
not anymore. It was put in originally, they were going to pay it.
It was put
We-
into, into.
We
their
picked it
TO.
up so they wouldn't, Belmont County picked it up, we picked it up, we each picked up that officer because we thought it was an important thing. So Steubenville is getting that service. The county is paying for that officer. And Steubenville gets that service the same way anyone in the county does, and Belmont County is paying the same thing we are.
with that, okay, $60,000, Mr. Myers makes 69, I'm sorry, but it's public knowledge. What kind of officer is this to make $60,000? Is that his benefits included? I mean,
I'm sure, Mr. Meyer, you're quoting his net salary and what his wage. but
well,
when
it's
you
right
start-
here, I can show you. I mean,
But
it's
no,
public knowledge, but,
Yeah, 60,000 includes the benefits, and you start to put insurance in at $1,400 a month, that starts. that's-
again, we are paying that. We, the citizens, are paying that. Now you want to tack on, we'll start out at 10, like I said, 10.54, now went up to 12.54, and now the county auditor wants to get 38 more cents to get his hands on it. So each person in this room is paying the $12.91, and the auditor gets 31 cents for each one of these people. It just goes on and on and on, and I'm not arguing with you. I'm just, go ahead.
I don't understand the point, if the county is paying the,
It's the citizens paying that.
right.
We're paying that, and then you want us to pay.
And Steubenville makes up about 19,000 of 70,000 people in the county. So you're a fifth of Jefferson County, and everybody in the county is paying, but we all benefit. It's just like your police protection, your fire protection, or anything else. Everybody's benefiting. This officer's out there and he's working with township trustees. It's been great so far what he's been doing. What we're getting reported back, the sheriff is working with him. The prosecutor is working with them, and we're trying to clean up dump sites and illegal dumping that's going on. It's a service. I'm missing
He's
the
working
point.
with our officer too, Sean Scott, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I guess I'm missing the point, but
Well, the point is, we're paying $60,000, the county, and then our citizens are gonna pay more money, and the citizens are still paying the $60,000. I mean, when it come down to one, never mind, I don't wanna go any further with this, because of the water situation, and, hi, how are you? Sorry.
Can administration tell me that you got the direction of council? I know we've spent a lot of time on this. We have several other things that are on the agenda. It is 6:56, and I just hope that yourselves and the JV Green Team keep us apprised as to future meetings and negotiations and where the communities are.
And I think, again, Mr. Meyer and I had a good conversation this afternoon. I think that negotiating committee is the most pragmatic way to go forward to try to get this resolved and keep local control. And I would, I mentioned it to Mr. Meyer as well, EPA, while I agree that a presentation would be wonderful, I think EPA being somehow their involvement in this negotiating committee, I think, has potential for greater value. So that would just be my thoughts. And certainly will keep council apprised as we move forward.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, John. Okay, next on the agenda is our water system improvement plan, and Stacy has gone forward at this since her starting the job in May. So we, she has an update on the commercial meter replacement, so we'll go ahead and talk about that first.
Okay, I'll try to just make this quick since you guys all know what's pretty much going on. If you look at the graph that I passed out, the number to focus on is meters ordered or approval received, and right now, today, we're at 95%. There are 6 commercial meters that have not been replaced in the city as far as the main group. And then the last thing is just the meters installed. We actually we've got 80 officially installed out of the main group, and we got 30 delivered today, so we anticipate we're right on track. Our goal as far as the meters ordered, that I hope to get the next 6, in approval by the 1st of November. If not, we've been putting a lot of pressure on the last 6. We're gonna get them to come in and meet with Tim if they have an issue. We're just gonna keep escalating it until they make an order. We're gonna give them options as far as, we've done it with everybody else, but there's still 6 people out there that are holding on to the bitter end, I guess. But I feel like we're doing pretty good. I just want to give, the props where it is due is, our utility office, they've done a really good job as far as following up. Lindsay Mont and Bernadette, they've done a really good job at managing this meter project. As far as the residentials, Neptune's actually coming in tomorrow. They're going to tie up any loose ends with anybody who maybe had outstanding questions or just issues with buying their large meter. They are going to be out there determining where they're going to put the towers for the residential project. That project, the towers are going to be put up sometime in the month of November. They'd like to get those towers up before the winter hits and it gets too cold. After that, they won't do any more work until the new year. But once the new year starts, the citizens will receive the notifications on their water bill as far as scheduling and that kind of thing. I'll have more information about that going forward.
Stacy, when Neptune comes in tomorrow, find out how they're gonna do this. So we're gonna go west end down,
Okay.
go downtown to the west end. That way, at least we could, at least alert citizens. Maybe with, our new water bills and how we're gonna be sending these things out to mailers, we could continue to, maybe since it won't cost us anything, to have a little note in there.
Yeah.
Keep them apprised as to what's going on with
Yes. In the water accounts, the way the numbers are actually set up, they are grouped in neighborhoods. So, one area of town will receive the notifications as far as scheduling and what to do, how to do it. It's my understanding that they're going to be scheduling, 12 hours a day. It's not just going to be during the daytime hours because people do work. So, they understand that. But they are going to, and I'll be working with Bob on this, but we're going to have them set up shop in the Public Works building, as far as I know right now. We need to work out the logistics of that, but, they would need a place where they could set up, they run it all. We don't have to do anything in this. So,
Send news to you, Bob.
yes.
Sorry, the reaction.
Yeah.
Tim, you want to comment?
Just a couple comments. Yeah. Bob looks receptive, I think.
I think I mentioned.
It'll all work out.
Yeah.
I think for the residential meters, council might remember this from last time. We anticipate breaking it into 5 sections. Is that still accurate?
Yes.
Stacy? Throughout the community, and the estimate was in total a 19-week process. I suppose, given how things happen sometimes, it's probably more like about a 6-month or 5 to 6 month process that we would shoot for.
I think 6 months is ideal from talking to them.
For 18, well, how many? 8,000.
8,000.
8,000 customers and meters that we need to install and change out. So I know we talked earlier today, or earlier this week with our bond rating firm. So the funding for the project is seems to be moving forward. So I think everything looks to be a go with not only wrapping up the large meters this year, but getting a quick start on the residential meters in 2015. And I would just acknowledge the work of Finance Department and Water and Sewer Billing to really keep focused on this. I suppose our last important point that I would make is that we do want to, beginning in the first quarter, provide whatever reporting we can to show council the impact of the large meters. And what will we revenue from where we were a year ago, and then what the impact. I think we need to wait till the end of the year to do that, and then follow that same approach with the residential meters. Hopefully that will address a significant portion of our revenue concerns, but at least we'll be on top of it and be able to react accordingly based on that.
Thank you. On the subject, any comments from the committee or members of council? Moving on, Tim. Or wait, no, please.
Fire hydrants, I would like for you to go up on Capitol Avenue, and there's a lot of fire hydrants up there with no homes, and maybe we could salvage some of those fire hydrants and turn some of that water off up there. Because all we need right now is a boulder. One house up there, so we can save us some money up there, there might be some water leaks up there.
I'll check that
Shut 'em
out.
up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm done, Chairman.
You jumped ahead.
Oh, sorry. It's okay.
Fire hydrants was coming up. That's okay.
I was on number 4.
That's all right. You're okay.
I'm done.
Buena Vista, Harvard, Loretta, St. Charles, is there an update since
I
the
would,
last discussions?
I would ask Mr. Murphy to give that report if you would.
As you know, I've just recently been delving into the water issues. Just started into that last Wednesday. Speaking with Mike Dolak regarding these issues to get up to speed. Buena Vista, what he tells me is it's out for bid. They had the pre-bid on Monday, and the bids are due November 5th for Buena Vista. Harvard Avenue, that project is done. It was completed on October 10th. The only thing that was remaining was the paving of the road, and that is in progress, as I understand it. In dealing with Loretta Drive, the contractor was authorized to proceed on October 20th, and they started their survey work on October 23rd. So that's where those 3 items stand.
Thank you, Chuck. Back to fire hydrants. Our chief isn't here this evening. Fire hydrant repair and replacement program. I know we've gone up to about halfway through town and, wanted to get the second half. So is there any thoughts on that yet?
Yeah, I can give a little bit of summary, and Chuck might help me out as well. We've, I think as council's aware, completed the first phase of our hydrant inventory and assessment of the condition. As I recall, Chuck, I think we were about 83 hydrants that needed some work in varying stages of disrepair. And our goal with the capital improvement plan was to try to do 12 a year. We're at about 7, so I'm a little concerned, to be honest, in terms of that's not moving forward as fast as, to be quite honest, that I would think we should do that. So Chuck and I have talked about that a little bit. I know we're gonna, and he has only just jumped into it last week, so he's refocusing our efforts. But again, it's extremely important that we change out those hydrants where we need to, and show significant progress on that front. The second phase of the community, second and final phase, is In my last discussion with Chief Capaldi, it should be completed shortly, so we would be able to share that at, I'm hopeful at next month's utility committee meeting, Mr. Chairman.
That sounds good, Chuck. I have a lot of time on with you going forward. Tim, and you noticed like last night, we were pointing out, Kenny had pointed out a couple downtown here on 4th Street. That need to be looked at, make sure that Chuck is aware of those items. Thank you.
Mr. Metcalf, just so you know, it has the ring on it, as it's pointed out, they are tagged. Also, if you notice, the first page of what the city manager was making reference to, fire department has numbers, codes. First off, fire hydrants are coded. The ones with the white tops are high pressure lines, with the yellow bottoms, the all yellows, regular pressure. But there's numbers on each of those fire hydrants, and there's a method of how they're putting this formula together. I encourage our residents to bear with us. The numbers are on there for a reason. I do know that some residents, and particularly in the north end, some fire hydrants were painted and the numbers were removed. Good thing that the fire department is keeping track of that. They'll go back, but they're on there for a reason, for that purpose. So if they want to, yes, John.
I just wanted to go ahead and just give an additional data, I'm trying to interrupt, I'll let you know. Additional information that I have gotten is that we have ordered 9 more hydrants on October 24th, and we have 6 watch valves that were ordered a month ago. I will go ahead and get additional information in regards to when we can expect to receive those, and then weather permitting, we'll start immediately on getting those in. Just wanted to make sure council is fully up to speed on that.
Thank you.
That's at the end of the week, Joe.
Always taking it on the chin tonight. Okay, any other comments or questions from the committee or council on the fire hydrant repair? Good. All right, moving forward, water customer issues. Well, street openings are done.
Yes, Chuck, that's probably not, we're really at restorations.
Restoration.
Those are ongoing when we have main breaks. Chuck, do we have any outstanding? I know we're when we have a main break, we address those restorations fairly quickly, but now that we've caught up with those. But Chuck, from the ground, any comment you want to make?
Well, basically, as I understand it right now, because I know that that's a very important issue to council as well as the public, so I wanted to make sure as to where we were at. It's my understanding at this point that there is one guard restoration that needs to be done on Alexander Manor. It's my understanding that there are some issues with the ground backer being as soft at this point, and we don't want to cause additional damage trying to make that repair. I have not had opportunity as yet to go out and take a look myself to get a better sense of things. I'm hoping to do that this week, and we'll get on that as quickly as possible. We don't want to let things lie around.
Thank you.
That is the only one that I'm aware of in regards to yard restorations. I'm sorry, that was actually Whitehaven and Devonshire that I was speaking of there. The Alexander Manor, they're actually going to be dealing with that portion of the driveway from a previous restoration on Thursday.
Thank you.
The address?
I do not have that here at this point.
That's okay. I didn't know the address.
And with restorations this time of year, these are ones where the conditions are a little more challenging, as Chuck pointed out. But that having been said, we want to get as many done and get them done quickly for the winter weather. There's going to be a few of them we're going to have to wait till next year, but we really need to limit that and communicate that to the resident that we'll be out there first thing in the spring when the weather breaks.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Chuck. Last on the docket tonight, theft of water, structures inhabited without water service, and Ken, you brought up several, and that's why this is on here. We would like to get an update as to where we stand with that, because we'll be getting
this has been a ongoing, or an item that's been on the agenda each meeting for a while now. Stacy, if you have any update on where we are with that? I know the number was fairly low, or lower last time we reported that.
Well, I think the last time we all met, I mentioned, there were 5 houses where our water department was unable to find the curb box to actually turn it off. Those are the last 5 on the list. And one thing about the water, though, that you really have to keep in mind is this list is an ongoing list forever. I mean, every day there's somebody moving out of a house, or it's vacant, or, I mean, this is not I can't tell you today that everything's fixed and then tomorrow it'll be different. I mean, I just want everybody to keep that in mind. We do know, like, Chuck said about his, we know this is an important issue to the public and to the city, that we keep working these houses, and we are. I can assure you that we are. But the other day, it was down to 5. We are getting bids currently to go out and do those, and, that's where we're at.
So we really don't have a backlog at this point.
No, there is no backlog.
And I think the point
There were
you're
just
making-
5 issues, and that's why we weren't able to turn it off, was because our guys didn't have the right equipment. We just weren't capable or had the manpower to actually go out and turn them off ourselves.
I think the point you're making, Stacy, is that while there may be 5, it might be a different 5 than.
Yes, next week
Last
it could be a
one's
different 5 of people living there without water, but it's a list that,
There'll always be somebody on the list, but we need to work through it.
yes, and I hope that nobody's living without water, but I think the problem is that they are. Sometimes they slip through the cracks for a little while, but, once they're coming up on, 60-day list, I mean, we're really paying attention, because they're either living in horrendous conditions or they're doing something they're not supposed to. So we are focusing on those, and, we do ask that our residents keep your eye out. If you know people live in places without water, please report it. Our meter people would like to know. So that's all I have.
Stacy, you say we have 5 where we can't find the water box, the curb box?
Yes,
Shut it off.
and we're currently bidding those 5 out to
Okay.
find it.
And after that happens, is that our fault or their fault?
It's the residents. It's the residents' job to maintain their curb box, so we can't shut it off.
So we'll bill them then? Is that how that'll work?
Yes.
Any comments? Council administration? At this time?
You know what, I do have a question, if I could go fast,
Yes,
Stacy,
go ahead.
and it has to do with both the curb box and the new meters. When we start, and I think I asked this before, but I want to make sure that we have a plan. When we start installing new meters, obviously, we have to shut the curb box off to install the meter.
Yes, I believe so.
We better be prepared to change those valves at that time for the system to work. That's my only comment.
You can actually shut off inside the house. There is a
We
shut off
should-
inside the house.
But
Then
you
you're.
know how many of those old pipes leak when they try to shut them off? Yeah, I hear you, but I'm just saying, if you're gonna do this system, we need to, if we're going to, we need to make sure that we have,
Isn't that part of the process, what we're doing now with the GPS, correct? Or GIS is trying to find the
just
lines
touch all base.
to know where they're at, and that's why we have all the blue markings on the ground, that's for that.
I mean, my biggest concern is like what you're saying too, is that the resident has to have a working curb box just in case, because
Absolutely.
there are issues, and that's why our water policy states clearly that the curb box, shut off, all of that is the responsibility of the resident. And so, that's always supposed to be.
We're gonna talk to you after this meeting.
And I think that's a good point, Councilman Davis, that you make, and I think we need to, we will vet our specs before we go out and go into a few thousand homes and make certain that we.
Yeah, we'll definitely have those Neptune guys that are out there doing this, let us know what they're seeing out there.
Stacy, when we turn it, when the water's turned off and we repair it, once that house gets rented or sold, that water doesn't come on until the bill's paid, correct?
When we disconnect somebody,
Right, disconnected, and somebody rents it the next time, or somebody buys it? No.
yeah, if it's a rental property, yes, it does not.
Or
It
if
says
we
not
sell it,
yet.
somebody got paid the previous owner, and the
Yes.
water don't get turned off?
Yes,
As
they have to pay the liens, yes.
I want the water, I want the money.
Yes, that is the money, yes.
Thank you.
It's all about the money, Earl.
He's down Beatty Park, huh?
You're
Bay Park's clean. Bay Park's clean.
It's like,
Should be the money.
There's no further business at this point in time. I make a motion to adjourn the Utilities Committee meeting,
Second.
and we got 12 minutes.
12 minutes.